Woodford Square, the People's National Movement presentation of candidates for the general election 2025.
When Arima had it, Maturita had it, Santa Rosa had it, Donyaruka had it, in Mova had it, in Sawa had it, Soparia had it, local over. Downtown Fed was the vibes when West people live from Lincoln, John and Beat.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Camille. Thank you, PNM. Thank you, Trinidad and Tobago. For at this time, all I have is thanks. Everything that has to be said has been said. But I have a lot of memories. Party Chairman, the Honourable Stuart Young, Deputy Political Leaders, Party General Secretary, other members of the Executive of the People's National Movement, all our party members and loyal supporters, and all the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, today is my special day. In 2015, on a day like this, at a time like this, I left my home in the West and I came to Port of Spain, and I've been squatting there ever since. On this red watch, in 5.5 hours today, in 5.5 hours time, I leave St. Anne's and I go back to Diego Martin West. Ladies and gentlemen, I do so as a person who had been privileged to have the opportunity to serve my nation. Public service is honorable. Public service is useful. Public service is important. And I have had the opportunity to serve the people of Trinidad and Tobago for a very long time. And for that, I say thank you. During that time of service, it had been my responsibility to address a number of troubling issues in the nation. Some of those issues remain unattended, or the solutions are incomplete. But quite a number of them have been dealt with, and dealt with decisively. And when I look at that, any reasonable assessment of the performance of the PNM government will tell the people of Trinidad and Tobago, while there is always room for improvement, your good government has given you good and better service. I have a colleague in the parliament who carries the title of Leader of the Opposition, who is a senior counsel. If you look behind her name, you will see SC and MP. And she understands, the same way I understand, that if things are going wrong with the government, if things are bad, crisis, collapse, terrible, incompetence, and all the things that they talk about, if those things are genuinely affecting the interests of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, the role of the opposition leader is to bring a question of confidence in the parliament against the Prime Minister and his cabinet, and let the people vote in the parliament and let the population know what these issues are. But notwithstanding all the buckets of negative you've heard for the last 9.5 years, during the tenure of the Keith Rowley-led PNM administration, I leave tonight at midnight having never faced a vote of no confidence by the opposition in Trinidad and Tobago. And all you have to ask yourself is, if things were so bad as they were saying, then why weren't you doing your job and moving at least one vote of no confidence? I could tell you, when I was opposition leader, within weeks of being opposition, within months, within years, the record in Parliament will show the number of times that I have come to the Parliament and explained to the population how detrimental the government was to the public interest by way of a vote of no confidence, not once, but many times. But you hear them talking about this, that, and the other. Ladies and gentlemen, what they are holding us responsible for is doing our job. And you have to ask yourself, if you are so upset with the job that the PNM has done, and you want to come into office, and you're vexed about all that the PNM has done, really, we should take you seriously when you say you're coming to restart Caroni Limited, you're coming to reopen refinery, and you're coming to give anybody anything they want and everybody everything they want. That sounds like a government to you? Well, I'll tell you something. There were a number of other things that we didn't have during the period while I was Prime Minister. Not only were there no votes of no confidence against us in the PNM cabinet or the Prime Minister of the country, but there was never a single instance during our term when anybody was shown to have had a job with false papers. Not once. There was never a sex scandal in my government. So when anybody could come with a tape and your minister don't know is he smoking marijuana, snorting cocaine, with horse in a hotel, the minister don't know is he, you ready? You know that ask me if that is me. Never was there a minister in my government who, for an action in my government, that minister has had an issue with the police. Nobody. I defy Kamla Prasad Bisesa to say the same thing about the government that she led. I'm saying to you, you would have heard a lot about wrongdoing in my government. Stuart Young, they could count and tell you the number of times that he has recused himself. Faris, they could tell you the number of times that he has recused himself. You know what recuse means? It means to remove yourself. And you know what the Integrity in Public Life Act requires of us in government, in the cabinet? It says that if you are in a position where you are likely to benefit from a decision, you or anybody close to you, like your wife or your children or your family, if you are likely to be the beneficiary of a decision, when the issue comes up, you are required to recuse yourself. So all this recusal you're hearing about the UNC and some of the friends in the media talking shoppings about recusal, it is simply members of the PNM cabinet obeying the law. So if you are a cabinet member and your brother is working in a bank and the bank is bidding to loan money to the Ministry of Finance, then you recuse yourself and take no part in the decision. If you own a building and the building is rented by the state or the state wants to rent the building, then you have to recuse yourself and take no part in the decision. The rest of the cabinet will take the decision. But the UNC doesn't know anything about that. They sat in their cabinet, make decisions for themselves and their friends, and nobody recusing themselves. And they could come and tell you, because they figure you're stupid, that if Stuart Young recused 50 times, it's because he corrupt. Thinking that you stupid. Because every month when the Minister of Finance goes to the banks, because his brother is an employee in the bank, as a matter of fact, I don't even think that he requires to be in that situation, because his brother doesn't own the bank. His brother is an employee in the bank. But Kamla Prasad Bisesano friends will try to give you the impression that is their idea of corruption. But let me tell you what the real corruption in this country is. That same Stuart Young there. When we came into government, we discovered that the last working day of the UNC in office, which is the Friday before election, they removed from the contract on the OS highway construction project the clause that said that if the contractor goes bankrupt, the bonds that protect the taxpayers' money belong to the government. They removed the clause, and the contractor was bankrupt since April. They removed the clause in September to allow the contractor to go with the bonds. When Stuart Young became a minister of government under my instruction, he had to go abroad to capitals around the world to fight in courthouse to get and to bring back the money that the UNC gave to the contractor. $971 million. And up to this day, neither Kamla Prasad Bisesa, not one of her ministers, especially the Minister of Works and Transport, under whose portfolio it was done, not one of them to this day will tell you who authorized that and who did that. But thank God we got the money back. They're still fighting for it, but we have it. And possession is 9/10 of it. And I brought that matter to the Parliament. They always want to know this and they want to know that and they want to know the other. I brought it to the Parliament. It is in our Parliament now, being investigated by a joint select committee of the Parliament. And guess what? Not only are they not answering who took out the clause to cause the money to go with the contractor, but in the Parliament, they're obstructing the committee that is inquiring into it. And all of you here, before Kamla Prasad Bisesa could talk to any of you again about wanting any public office in this country, ask her the simple question: how did $971 million leave this country under your government? Which of your ministers did it? And how do you intend to proceed from there? You all have to be mad to pick up somebody like that and consider putting them back in the corridors of power. And of course, they believe that you've forgotten, you know. You know what they're talking about now? You know what they're talking about now for this election? I've been watching them for the last 3 months. And all of their conversations are about race and division. It appears as though while we of the PNM, instructed by Dr. Williams to understand that we exist as a vehicle, not a party in the ordinary sense of the word, but rather a rally for all the people of the country, cutting across race, color, class, geography, religion. And we are united as we are in Woodford Square here now for the common cause of defending Trinidad and Tobago. They are only prepared to hate, to create fear, to lie, and to divide. It has reached the point now where senior people in their party are saying to the UNC, I can't stomach all you anymore, I'm gone. They're not PNM saying that, you know. These are the people of quality, citizens who have had enough of that, who are saying that. And as you ask for office in this country, as we do in the PNM, we know that we have to earn your trust and to conduct ourselves in a way that what I have just told you there cannot be truthfully attached to a PNM government. Tonight, as I leave this job, I am tremendously proud of the cabinet that I brought forward, that I managed, and the screening committee of the PNM, I am proud of the candidates that you have selected to represent all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. You see, this issue of being committed to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Imagine I, as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, without calling anybody's name, without naming any country, I, true to my oath of office, to act without fear, without favor, without malice, and without ill will, I made a statement saying that I will encourage you to know your sovereignty, and that I will defend the sovereignty of Trinidad and Tobago. Within minutes, I was being attacked by the opposition leader for saying that. I want to ask her a question tonight. Since you have to attack the Prime Minister today because he commit to defend the dignity of our sovereignty, if God forbid that you are the Prime Minister after the election, is it that we are to understand that you will not defend the sovereignty of Trinidad and Tobago? Ask yourself that. And if you believe that they will not act against the interests of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, because they would find it within them that it is wrong to do so, you have to ask yourself how you could give away $900 million. That is 2 hospitals. You give foreigners that to go without shame, without remorse of any kind. And you telling me today that you want to tell the population that because somebody's heritage is not like yours, that that person doesn't qualify. Tonight I want to say to Kamala Prasad Bisesa, we of the PNM, we of this Red Brigade and Army, we need no advice from you. You were advising them that I was too black. You were advising them that I was an Oreo, black outside and white inside. Spend all your time dividing the country about 1% and 1% and 1%. Well, I can tell you tonight, for the last how many years after 9 elections, I have been proud to represent everybody in Diego Martin West. And in Diego Martin West, we have the largest Arab community, and I have been there represented in 9 broken election terms. We are not about dividing. We are about uniting. Imagine you want to run the country. You want to be Prime Minister. You want to run a cabinet, but you're only interested in half of the population. You're only interested in half of the population. So you know an election is coming. You make no effort to have candidates for your party in the northern part of the country. But as far as you make any effort at all, is to try and make deals with what you yourself call pop-up parties to bring candidates for you in name but no substance. And as if that is not enough, the country is Trinidad and Tobago. But you're not interested in putting up any candidate in Tobago because you intend that you could make a deal with somebody in Tobago. Well, I want to tell you tonight, Tobago gone PNM. Tobago is PNM. Tobago will remain PNM. We're going to beat them from Charlottesville to Belgarden to Roxborough to Mason Hall to Canaan because Tobago is PNM. And when we land in Trinidad, we're going to beat them in Carnage. We're going to beat them in Grande. We're going to beat them in Chaguanas. We're going to beat them in San Fernando. We're going to beat them in Point Fortin. We're going to beat them. We're going to beat them. We're going to beat them because we are the nation of the steel band. And we pass the year of the steel band and wear that proudly on your chest. None of this nonsense. None of this nonsense about dividing people, castigating people. And they believe that anything they say about anybody is law. They know they're lying, you know, but you must accept the lie. You would have seen in the papers today that the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago has been selected by the Eastern Caribbean Court of Justice of the Associated States to be one of their appeal judges. You would think that all our citizens would be proud to know that one of our citizens, like it has happened all the time, has got that distinction, that selection. The Eastern Caribbean countries has reached out and they have taken our Attorney General, who I must thank for the 3 years of service he agreed to give. But you know what their position is? That it is a disgrace. And she started to denigrate the man. You know why? Because she has been denigrating him for the last 3 years non-stop and believe that others must do the same. Thank God the judges and the populations of the Eastern Caribbean are not like the UNC and their leader and their leadership. I want to congratulate Reginald Armour for being selected to be a judge in our neighboring territories in CARICOM. Ladies and gentlemen, PNM members, when last did you hear the opposition leader say anything good about anybody? Just cast your mind back. The only time she gets up out of her liquid stupor is to put her name on something offensive that somebody has written for her. Sometimes it don't even make sense. You know, a president comes in America, right? And as a matter of course, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago and anybody else, you send letters of congratulations to these people all around the world. And I don't know where the UNC leader got the letter that Keir Starmer wrote to the White House to congratulate Joe Biden. Kamala sign it. Sign the Keir Starmer letter, you know. If this woman cannot bring herself to write her own letter as senior official in Trinidad and Tobago to congratulate the American president, and found herself having to apologize for plagiarizing Keir Starmer's letter. Keir Starmer is now the Prime Minister of the UK. Picture this scene. You all get drunk election day. You all vote for the UNC and Kamala is Prime Minister. And she goes to a Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting and she will meet Keir Starmer there. And Keir Starmer will simply say, oh, it's you. I heard about you. It's you. And she will pretend not to know what he's talking about. I mean, is that what we really need? Is that what we need? And worse, it appears as though she has a magnet for people who the police looking for. If we had time tonight, I will name on my 10 fingers 10 people in her team who the police have an interest in. But that is for another time. But I want to say to you, today you saw 41 candidates here. And for the first time since 1991, I wasn't in that crowd. First time since 1991, I am not among those who will carry the flag. But I'll be there cheering them on. But listen, you will look at our team and visualize the cabinet after election day. And after you've done that, with a smile on your face, try to visualize a cabinet from that basket of deplorables that Kamala Persad-Bissessar has encouraged around her. And picture them in the cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago. Some of them, again, if that happens, some of them going into the cabinet, carrying the police warrant, dragging behind them, you know. Them not going in there to thief, you know. Them going in there to answer for what they did before. And that is the option. Tonight, I want to ask you to compare and contrast what is available to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. In the PNM corner, in the red corner, you have youth, you have vibrancy, you have experience, you have integrity, you have trust, you have enthusiasm, and you have patriotism in the form of Stuart Young and the People's National Movement. Try and apply those attributes to the other corner. Try and apply that to the other corner and see how quickly you'll tell yourself that you're trying to fool yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud of many things. But what I am proud of tonight is that while I was Prime Minister, one of the things I did was to look at the future situation of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. You don't only govern for today. In fact, you don't only govern for next month. You govern with a long view, as long as you believe that your country will be here in the long term. And that is why I told you all at Balizé House, August of 2020, that I will not, on another night, be at Balizé House receiving the election results. Because I'm not one of those people who believe that once you get office, you get it for life. Some of you didn't believe me. You better believe me, because you have 5 hours more to go. So, once that was my decision, I was duty-bound to make sure that when I leave, I do not leave chaos and confusion in the country and in the party. That was a duty that went with that decision. And it's against that background that I had to make decisions as to who goes where in the cabinet, who does what in the cabinet, and if I have to advise the party as to how we should move when the vacancy occurs, that is called transition. I promise the country that there will be a smooth transition. I promise the party that there will be a smooth transition in the party. And come Monday morning, which is tomorrow morning, that smooth transition would have begun when I accompany Stuart Young to be appointed Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. They don't know anything about that. Holding on for dear life, bad talking everybody in the country. Imagine you have a political party and some of your key talent leaving you in disgust, and you could tell the country, let them go. Who want to go could go. You understand? And you want to retaliate against the PNM with that, so you go and find Watts. Well, Watts' bulb dim and his light will blow. We're not in that. We are not about making deals. What we are about is responsible governance, where I, as Prime Minister, could tell you, my party, that the caucus of the General Council of the PNM, the parliamentary caucus, not the cabinet, every elected member of parliament is a member of the caucus. And they met, and by secret ballot, notwithstanding any disappointment on the part of any person, by secret ballot, they democratically chose Stuart Young to be the person who leads them in the parliament. Our opposition leader is saying that that process is somehow offending the Constitution and she's going to take it to court. Well, ladies and gentlemen, she loved courthouse. If it is that any law was broken, any constitution was offended, she says she's carrying us to court on Monday. I want you to give her one message for me when you see her. Before you go to the courthouse on Monday with any more of your adventures, make arrangements to pay the PNM for the millions you owe us for the last time you carried us in the courthouse in the 2015 election. Since 2016, they're carrying us to court about election victory when we beat them and they didn't want to accept the results. Understand? So I have no problem if she goes there again, but they don't pay. They do not pay when they lose. The PNM owes, the PNM is owed millions of dollars by the UNC, and they wouldn't pay, but coming out to talk about courthouse. They can't tell you which part of the Constitution is offended and in what way. And it may be that is because she doesn't understand that the Prime Minister is a creature of the Parliament numbers. Maybe that is why she never moved a vote of no confidence. Because if she understood that it is the numbers in the Parliament that impact upon the presence or absence of a Prime Minister, she would know that once there's a vacancy, and I have created that vacancy by resigning the position of Prime Minister, something she will never do. And once the vacancy exists, the law is very clear as to how the President should proceed to fill that vacancy. And it's simple English. It is the person in the Parliament from the party that has the majority and that the majority supports an individual. And if in fact the individuals are not unanimous in their support for an individual, it is the President in her own judgment who will select somebody from the party in the majority to be the Prime Minister. And if the opposition doesn't like it, it's not courthouse you have to go in the Parliament and move a vote of no confidence in the individual, and if that individual doesn't have the support, then he's out of office and that triggers an election. But you're coming to fool people with nonsense, as if our people are not to rely on the PNM for your guidance in situations like this. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm what I am. I can't be anything else. They make me so. When I went to Mason Hall Government Primary School, the motto of that school is good work or none. Meaning, at all times you give of your best. And that is what I have inculcated, and that is what I've tried to do even as I serve you as Prime Minister. When I went to Bishop's High School after, our motto, our song that we sang, not the school motto, but one of the things that we had to repeat is to give and not count the cost, to labor and not ask for rest, to labor and not look for reward. They instilled that into me and my generation, so I can't be different. And when I went to UWI, the motto was Oriens Occidente West, a light shining in the west, and I ended up shining in Diego Martin West. And when you put on that red and you come out here in English or in Latin we say magnum est prevelabit, magnum est prevelabit. Magnum est prevelabit. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM. That's what we say. Tell them I ain't finished. So We are not acting by VAPs. We are acting by training in our primary school, in our secondary school, in our university. They've asked us to do certain things and to be certain things. And the last thing this country needs now or any time is a leadership in any organization, especially a political organization, which sees potential for profit by dividing the population, by coming and attempting to use racial differences, by attempting to use personal circumstances of poverty to fool you, to come and tell you what they will give when they know they can't give it. I observe in the PSA, they elect somebody there, and even before she sat down in the seat, she's threatening the government that she has come to get the PNM out of office. But let me say something to all of you public servants who believe that that is leadership that you require or who will work in your interests. Let the record show that the PNM government early in its tenure borrowed $6.5 billion and paid public servants their back pay that the UNC promised and never paid. Let the record show that in the worst of times, in the heart of a pandemic, the PNM ensured that not a single public servant went without a salary at the end of the month. Let the record show that as the country's revenue declined precipitously, known to all and sundry, with the PNM in office, we have never laid off a single gazetted public servant in the entire period of the PNM government since 2015. But by the same token, we've seen public servants laid off by the thousands in Barbados. We are seeing public servants in America, the richest country in the world, being laid off, being fired by the tens of thousands, by the hundreds of thousands. And there are people in Trinidad politics who believe that the model that is out there is the model that they should incorporate here. And if it is working out there, they believe it's going to work here. So I'm warning you, public servants, put God out your thoughts and put them in office. And when they come face to face with the inability to pay your salary at the end of the month and they start to fire you all left, right, and center, you will say, great is the PNM. You see, we take so much for granted in this country that good governance passes unnoticed. And I speak to you now, in a very difficult financial period, I could say to you, when you started out with me, there was no hospital in Point 14, no brand new hospital. We had a old shed. New hospital. Arima, new hospital. Sandy Grande, new hospital. Roxborough, new hospital. And Port of Spain General, new central block, 540 beds. When you started out with me, the money for the Point 14 highway was in the hands of foreigners who fought and lost. Today, you have the brand new highway all the way, London, the Leon Highway to Point 14. When you started out with us, Curep interchange didn't exist. It was an attempt by them to appropriate an extra $300 million. It's built there now, and you take it for granted. We have expanded our care to those who depend on the government for cash support. We have in fact given you tax breaks. And more importantly, if I am to go to the source of the revenues that support those things, we have restructured the way we earn money from the oil and gas sector. We have restructured the LNG business to get shareholding in trains 3 and trains 4. We have shut down the money-losing refinery. We have created Heritage and Paria, which are making profits, and we took some time to do it, but we finally think we have found somebody who has a supply of oil and who is interested in the refinery, and we have done business with them, getting them coming here, and hopefully to contract themselves to restart the refinery sometime in the not too distant future. Ladies and gentlemen, these decisions are not easy ones, but they were required in the interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Had we not restructured Petrotrin, when in August of 2018, there was a requirement for the Minister of Finance to come with $850 million that we didn't have. You know what they were telling us? Those who figure we shouldn't have done that? Yes, Minister of Finance, you could pay it. And after you pay it, they will downgrade the whole country, bankrupt the whole country, and all of us will go to the IMF. When you go to the IMF, before you get $1, the IMF will tell you, cut the subsidy at Wassa, your water rate going up. Cut the subsidy at TNTEC rate going up. Eliminate the subsidy on gasoline, your gas price going up further. Healthcare is free, put a charge on it. Education is free, put a charge on it. IMF not giving you money because they like you. If you are living above your means and budgeting for deficit financing, meaning that you are spending more than you're earning, if you want IMF money, they will bring you back to where you are earning. We have CARICOM colleagues who have been in an IMF program for years, and the IMF is saying to them, your expenditure must be equal to your earnings, and not only that, your earnings must show a little bit of savings as well. And they can't do anything about it. We have said to you, and we kept our word, that we will not be going to the IMF. And we will take our own medicine, bitter as it might be from time to time. And tonight I can announce to you that we have kept our word, and our economy is strong. It has recovered from COVID. We are making headway. We have a strong future in revenues after we've done what we had to do. There's a man who likes to call my name on a regular basis. I have an African name, eh? And for him, I will stop using Keith Rowley. Too easy to pronounce. I'm going to want him to call me by my long African name. And when he called me, I want to remind him. About 2 months ago, the first rig built at Tofco, where they build rigs in La Brea, the first one since 2019 went out about 2 months ago. You know why? Because one of them was so smart and so stupid and arrogant, going and telling BP, take your rig and go. Well, they did just that. They carried all the business to Mexico and Louisiana. And highly skilled people in this country were without jobs. Some of the best technical workers in this country are to be found at Tofco in La Brea. They had no work. I had to go to BP head office with Mr. Young in tow, sit down and virtually beg, give us another opportunity, give us another chance, give us a chance to compete. Even if we are not as competitive now as we should be, if you give us another chance, we'll improve ourselves. BP agreed. And that is how the Mentor project was done. And I can tell you, all of you feel proud. It was one of the most outstanding projects done by the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And having done that, the day the Mentor platform left Tofco, another one came in. And there's another one in the pipeline to come. So, who looks out for the people of Trinidad and Tobago? Eh? Those who tell them, take your rig and go, or those who tell them, give us an opportunity and we will prove ourselves? But all of them who talking, here the big point they're coming to win election with. Prime Minister's salary. Well, I am not going to apologize to anybody for any salary. If you catch me thieving, well, I'm in trouble. Because some of them believe it's better to thief government money than to accept the government salary. But I want to let her ask Roger, how much the union does pay he to do what he doing? You all will be shocked to know that he is a prime minister too. Because at least the prime minister's salary comes from earnings that the prime minister finds from the increased revenues. His salary is still being made from contributions from the few union members that are left. But of course, every election, all you have to do with them, and them so, is to be against the PNM. That is your qualification. Once you say you are against the PNM, you're welcome. No description of policies, no programs to compare, no experience in nothing useful, but they want to replace the PNM. The people of Trinidad and Tobago, your future is inextricably bound with the PNM's understanding of the country and the requirement to have policies and programs geared towards improving your circumstances. In fact, imagine we're in the middle of a pandemic, people dying like flies all around the world, and our opposition leader telling us, sunshine does kill COVID, or they just go out in the sun. And of course, while the doctors and nurses and technicians fighting to save your lives, we also fighting in the courthouse 65 times, $15 million in legal fees in the courthouse to fight them while they're fighting us, while they're fighting COVID. And they want to come into office to do what? To do what? Where is their policy? Where is their program? They will tell you all sorts of nonsense. Last election in 2020, they go around the country telling you each MP has 50,000 jobs. As if jobs is marble, they have them in their pocket and they have them by the thousand that they'll give you one. Absolute madness. But of course, I want to draw your attention to something else too. Not only are they not prepared to defend our sovereignty, but they cheer when people abuse us. You heard last week that the British government get a VAPS and decide to put all of us on visas, right? And the first thing that comes from our political opponents is not to stand up and defend this country against this injustice, but is to criticize the government and to cheer the British government action. What are the facts? The facts are that the British government and British laws allow, once you land in their territory, as you set foot there, it doesn't matter how you come, what you do, once you put your foot there, all you have to do is to tell them that you are asking for refugee status. Because where you came from, life is so bad, your life is at risk, and you come to them for aid and succor. You know, when you do that, their law prevents them from even asking the country you come from about you. Let me give you one particular example. There was a gentleman, you will see him from time to time in the newspapers giving us advice. There is a police file about him, which is a murder, with respect to a murder. He ran to England and declared himself refugee. The British embraced him. We send them the police file. They have the police file. They prefer to believe him than to believe the police. So he's a refugee. He and people like that out there making videos, sending back the videos to this country, telling their friends and their associates, some of them criminals, who want to escape their criminal friends, telling them, boy, come to England. You're getting hotel, you're getting lawyer, you're getting money. Have you all seen the videos? Now, if that is what is happening out there, what do you expect? If you call in them, don't you expect them to come? And of course, as one come, 1 equal 10, 10 add more is 20, then you're 20, but double is 40. Before you know it, overnight, they're telling us, well, we had 400 people asking for refugee status. When they ask, it is a request. You can turn them down, you can tell them no, but their laws allow this process to go on for years. And of course, we are a friendly Commonwealth country. Britain is our friendly Commonwealth nation. They have in this country a High Commission with staff who send reports back to London every day. I would want to know what kind of reports they are sending back to London saying that Trinidad and Tobago is a country where our citizens require refugee protection. Last week, half of the country jumping up and down covered in paint and skimpy clothes, playing mass. You could walk anywhere in this country and talk to anybody, and you will tell me that we have to apologize because a handful of people decide to go abroad and lie on the nation. But they did it before. They did it in Canada. They put us on visa. What Britain has done there is not only to damage us and our feelings, but to damage our economy as well. Because London is a gateway to Europe. And every time you have to pass through London to go and do business. And worse, the visa is very expensive. So it goes from being free to being a charge on you to go to Britain. Well, yes, as far as I'm concerned, all you could charge us what all you want. But what really rots my gut is that I have to also swallow that the highest court of this land is in London, at the Privy Council. And if you want to go to the Privy Council, you have to go there by way of some arrangements that they make for you. Do you really feel independent? Where your highest court is in a foreign country and the foreign country leaders would put on the arrangements by which you could come to that country? Either your lawyers have to provide proof that you are so-and-so, or they turn down your visa request. And that is your highest access to legal support as a nation. Well, if you all didn't know that we should get out of the Privy Council and get to the Caribbean Court of Justice, this treatment by the British government should let all of you know how they view us. And if you believe that they have come around to thinking that we are equals, you have another thought coming. Many of them still believe that we are substandard, we are inferior, and they should treat us as they want to treat us. Today I want to call on our friends in the United Kingdom to review that unjust action against the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We have been, and we continue to work closely with them, our security agencies, our Minister of Foreign Affairs, and our Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, to work with the British agencies to identify the ragamuffins who are living here and who will go to England and do that. And if we cooperate, and if they cooperate with us, they wouldn't have any refugee problem. But it is unfair. It is unjust. It is disgraceful that they will disregard our wider national interests, put a fee on us, and tell us, while you have to come to us to have our law lords tell you what is right and wrong, you have to pay for a visa to come and do that. Trinidad and Tobago must complete its independence and get to hell out of the Privy Council. And that's only one of the problems we have here. We have a whole lot of problems. You show me one country, rich or poor, that doesn't have problems. But there are people in this country who can identify every problem for you. But they can't tell you, they can't acknowledge to you what you have done well. If you treat your children so, you will destroy them. You keep telling your children how stupid they are, or how dunce they are, or how lazy they are, and see what kind of child you will raise. You have to acknowledge when progress is being made, when intentions are good, and pay attention to potential and possibilities. If I have to go through my government to tell you what we have done, it will take me whole night. If I call Foster Cummins here now to tell you what we have done in this new Ministry of Youth Affairs, it will take the whole night. As I went last week, or is it this week? Monday, to take possession of the new building, and it's being outfitted now at the hospital. If you see the technology, you don't want to be going to the hospital, right? Because you want to be healthy. But if you or your family have to go to that hospital now, when you see the computerization of the management of healthcare in our new hospital, you will know why this government created and is working a Ministry of Digital Technology and Transformation. We are in that age. No other government ever had those two portfolios, a Ministry of Youth Development and a Ministry of Digital Transformation. These jokers on the other side, there's a gentleman who speaks for the UNC. He has never said a decent or clean word about anything good. It's only to nasty up people's name, talk vulgarity. Ladies and gentlemen, thank God the people of Trinidad and Tobago have the option of the People's National Movement. You see, in the PNM, in choosing people to represent you, we don't make deals. We assess people. We encourage them to come forward. When I, as the PNM leader, say, young people, come forward and take responsibility for your country, they came. When they come to the screening committee of the PNM, which is not the Prime Minister or the political leader's friends, it is elected officers of the movement who make up the screening committee. And when they come there and they are assessed and they are found to be acceptable, immediately the constituency is told that we have found your candidate acceptable. X or Y is your candidate. No room for deal making, no room for pull and tug. A clear process as transparent as you can get. So we don't make deals. Not one of these candidates has made a deal with anybody in the PNM's leadership. I will give you this and I will give you that. I understand that in the other party, there are 9 people promised the post of Attorney General. 7 of them promised the post of Ministry of Foreign Affairs. 3 of them promised some other one. Just promise them. Just promise them. And hope that when the election is called, you'll pick the 41 and you'll get away from the other 400 who you promised. Watch and you will see. Months they're screening, but they can't name the candidates. They're waiting for the election to be called, and then they just sneak in, just slide in because they have too many deals. The PNM, we don't make deals. We ask for commitment. We ask for quality. We ask for service. We ask for a belief in the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And once we get that, and tonight I want to put a call out. All those of you in the UNC, and I want to quote Patrick Manny here, who have found yourself heavy laden, come to the PNM and we shall give you political rest. Because the PNM is here for you. If you have an intention to be good to this country and to be a decent, right-thinking citizen, wanting to contribute in the political arena, the doors of the PNM are open. So ladies and gentlemen, as I leave you in a few hours, I want to thank all of you for the support that you have given me. I want to thank you especially in the darkest hours of my tenure, those of you who stood up with me, and for those of you who prayed for me, those of you who sent kind words to my wife and my children, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I leave the office of Prime Minister with no element of sadness, but knowing that somewhere the actions that I have guided would have positively affected the lives of many, if not all, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So I thank you for the opportunity. This is not about me, it's about you. And the PNM is not for me, the PNM is for you. So we say, great is the PNM. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM, and we shall prevail.
Somebody touch me.